The morning air stung my skin like cold needles. I was halfway down the porch steps, coffee steaming in one hand, when the sheriff's cruiser rolled up like a thunderclap on four wheels. Karen was already there, arms folded, floral blouse stretched too tight over her chest, and that smug little tilt of her chin. You know the kind. The deputy didn't even look at me, walked straight to the back seat and opened the door like he was expecting a fugitive. "Mr. Calhoun?" he asked, scanning a sheet of paper. "We've received a complaint from the homeowner association, claims of unpaid fees. You're being asked to come with us until we sort it out." I blinked once. My coffee sloshed onto the steps. Karen's voice cut through the morning like barbed wire. $3,200 to be exact. Been dodging it for years, haven't you? I looked around. Mrs. Franklin had stopped mid-watering her begonias. The mailman froze beside his truck. My neighbor Clint stood shirtless in his driveway, arms crossed, smirking like this was a rerun of his favorite soap. I held my hands up, palms out. "You serious right now? Over HOA fees?" The deputy shrugged, not unkindly. "They filed through the county. Makes it official." Karen leaned in. "Rules are rules. You don't like them? Maybe this neighborhood's too good for you. Let me tell you something. There's humiliation, and then there's getting publicly marched off your porch in slippers while your coffee bleeds down the stairs." I didn't resist, just nodded, handed the deputy my mug like a peace offering, and climbed into the cruiser. Inside, the silence buzzed louder than the engine. My thoughts spun like tires in mud. I'd paid those damn fees, every quarter, on the dot. My wife used to handle it before she passed, God rest her, and I just kept the rhythm going. I even had the receipts, somewhere. Have you ever been so blindsided, so utterly caught off guard, you couldn't even get angry? Yeah, that was me. The ride to the sheriff's office was quick. I didn't say a word, and neither did the deputy. Probably didn't want to poke the bear. Smart man. They didn't book me or anything, just held me in a side room with buzzing fluorescent lights and a fan that wheezed like it had emphysema. 10 minutes in, the door opened, and in walked Karen with two board members from the homeowner association. One of them carried a manila folder like it was the sword of justice. "Mr. Calhoun," she said, laying the folder on the table, "we've reviewed the records. According to our database, you haven't paid HOA dues in the last 4 billing cycles. That's grounds for lien placement, possibly even foreclosure." That word snapped my head up. Foreclosure. "You've lost your damn mind," I said, voice low. "I've paid every dime. You're either lying or your system's broken." Karen smiled like a cat who just pissed on the curtains. "Prove it." And just like that, the weight shifted, from confusion to fury. Let me back up. 3 weeks ago, I tried to log into the HOA payment portal, and it said my password was invalid. I chalked it up to a glitch. Now, sitting across from Karen and her kangaroo court, I realized it wasn't a glitch at all. It was a setup. You ever felt the ground shift under you so fast? You start questioning your own memory. I leaned forward. I want to see the login records, all of them. IP addresses, timestamps, every login to that system from my account. Karen hesitated. Just a flicker, but I saw it. The man with the folder cleared his throat. "We'll need to consult the IT vendor." "Yeah," I said, "you do that." And that's when the door opened again, and in walked Walter. Walter lived 2 streets over. Quiet guy, wore the same army jacket year-round. I never paid him much attention, but today he looked at me with eyes that had seen war, and he nodded once. Karen straightened up. "This isn't your concern, Walter." He ignored her, walked over to me, and dropped a single piece of paper in front of my hands. "I printed the server logs from the last month," he said. "I used to do cyber forensics for the Bureau." Karen's face turned the color of spoiled milk. "And you know what I saw on that sheet? 6 failed login attempts from an IP address that wasn't mine. Then 1 successful one, all logged under my name." The room got real quiet, real fast. I looked at Karen. "Anything you'd like to say?" But she was already reaching for her purse. Truth be told, I didn't know where this would go, but I knew one thing. I wasn't crazy. And now, neither was Walter. What would you do if someone tried to erase your life, one lie at a time? Because I was about to find out just how deep this rabbit hole went. The paper crinkled in my hands as I folded it slow, like it might bite me if I moved too fast. That log, Walter's little gift, was the first solid piece of ground I'd felt under my feet all morning. Karen was halfway to the door when I said, "Where are you going? Meeting just getting interesting." She didn't turn around. The guy with the folder, the one who'd looked so sure of himself 10 minutes ago, started sweating like someone had turned up the heat. "Mr. Calhoun, we'll need to verify the source of this information before—" Walter cut him off. "That's a print from the server mirror. Unless someone's spoofing an IP address from inside the HOA office, we've got a problem." The silence that followed had teeth. I stood up, real slow, like I just remembered I had a spine. "So, let me get this straight. Someone logged into my account, canceled my payments, and now you're telling the county I'm a criminal, and Karen here just happened to be the one to call the sheriff." No one answered, didn't need to. You ever feel a room start to fold in on itself? Like you're not just talking to people anymore, you're watching a dam crack? I turned to Walter. "Why'd you help me?" He rubbed his jaw. "You helped me once, when my fence got knocked down. I didn't forget. Small towns, they remember everything." The deputy walked back in then, eyes flicking from Walter to me to Karen. "You free to go, Mr. Calhoun. We'll suspend further action until the records are reviewed." I gave him a nod, and on the way out, passed Karen in the hallway. She was on the phone, voice low, but I caught 2 words. Damage control. You know what that told me? She wasn't finished. And neither was I. By the time I got back to my house, Clint had put up a lawn chair like it was a front row seat to my downfall. He raised his beer like a toast. I didn't even look at him. Inside, I dropped the keys on the counter, booted up my old laptop, and started digging. 4 years of HOA emails, notices, receipts. I kept everything. Not because I'm organized, just because my wife used to be, and I couldn't bring myself to erase any of it. Found them all, PDFs of payments made on time, stamped, dated, matched to bank statements, and every one of them had a digital signature from the HOA system. Which meant someone had deleted those records manually. You ever stare at your own life in binary, wondering how easy it is for someone to flip the script? I emailed everything to a burner inbox I'd set up years ago, just in case. Then I printed hard copies, packed them in a manila envelope, and wrote one word on the front: insurance. The doorbell rang. I grabbed the envelope and stuffed it behind the toaster. At the door stood Janine, from 2 houses down, clipboard in hand, eyes narrow. "Karen asked me to remind you that your lawn's overgrown beyond the acceptable limit," she said. "You've got 48 hours to correct it." I stared at her. "My lawn?" She tapped the clipboard. 8 inches, max height. Yours is 11. "You measured?" She didn't blink. I smiled. "Tell Karen thanks for the warm welcome back." Before she could answer, I closed the door. Not slammed, just firm. You ever feel like your life's being squeezed through a funnel, drip by drip, until you snap? I sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, until the sound of the mailbox creaking jolted me. I stepped outside, and sure enough, a new envelope was wedged in there. No return address. Inside, a printout, an internal memo from the HOA board. Agenda item: discuss Mr. Calhoun's removal from community roles under provision 8.3.3, conduct unbecoming. My throat went dry. They were building a case, and they weren't doing it in the open. I went back inside and sat at the table again, tapping the envelope by the toaster. Walter was right. This wasn't about money. It was personal. And I was done playing defense. But here's the kicker. This whole time, I thought I was fighting Karen. Turns out, Karen wasn't acting alone. The next morning started with gravel crunching under tires, a slow, deliberate roll that stopped just outside my window. I pushed the curtain aside. Black SUV, unmarked, engine still humming. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, same slippers as yesterday. 2 men got out, button-down shirts, county badges clipped to their belts. No names offered. "Mr. Calhoun," one asked, "we're here to conduct a courtesy inspection of your property. Standard compliance check." "Yeah, sure, standard." "What triggered it?" I asked, crossing my arms. The second guy flipped through a tablet. Anonymous complaints, lawn height, fence line, possible unauthorized alterations. But I laughed once, dry. "You mean the fence I built 10 years ago with HOA approval?" He didn't answer, just tapped something on the screen. They started circling the house like vultures, measuring, pointing, whispering. One took a photo of my garage door. The other peeked over the back fence. You ever been watched like a criminal on your own damn lawn? By the time they left, I'd counted 6 photos, 4 notations, and 1 polite threat. You may receive a notice of violation within the week. Inside, I called Walter. He picked up on the first ring. They came. 2 of them looked like they were casing the place. He sighed. They're trying to force you into a mistake, make you retaliate, then they can escalate. So what do I do? He paused. We make them blink first. Later that afternoon, I got a visit from someone I hadn't seen in a while, my brother. Jack, federal agent, real suit and badge type. But he'd traded the suit for jeans and a sweatshirt. His face had that look, like he knew something I didn't want to hear. I heard what's going on, he said, stepping into the living room. You in deep? I shrugged. Define deep. He sat. Word is, Karen's got friends in the county records office. She's feeding them selective information, painting you like a problem homeowner. There's talk of pulling your occupancy license. I stared. That even legal? He gave a grim smile. Barely, but legal's not the point. Paperwork's slow. Rumors move fast. I sank into the chair across from him. So what? I wait for them to bury me? Jack shook his head. You need leverage, something they can't spin. That night, I went through everything. Files, old receipts, emails. And then I remembered something. 3 years ago, I helped Karen digitize HOA documents. She didn't trust the new intern. Asked me to scan and back up the files on my drive. I still had the hard copy. You ever realize you've been sitting on a loaded gun without knowing it? I pulled out the shoebox from the hall closet, blew off the dust, and opened it. Inside, a stack of printouts, including signatures, board votes, and, most importantly, a set of documents where Karen signed off on reallocating funds from the community improvement budget straight into landscaping around her own property. And the kicker? She never filed those changes with the county. No vote, no approval. I had her. But it wasn't time yet. First, I needed to see who else was in on it. The next morning, I went to the community center under the excuse of renewing my parking decal. Janine was there, clipboard in hand again, lips tight like she was sucking on lemons. Still got that lawn issue, Calhoun, she said without looking up. I leaned on the counter. Tell me something, Janine. You ever wonder where the beautification budget really goes? She stiffened. Because I've got a hunch it's not going toward the community garden. She looked up slowly. Careful, that kind of talk sounds like an accusation. I smiled. Only if you've got something to feel accused about. You ever throw a stone in a pond just to see which fish dart first? She didn't answer, but her eyes, they blinked too fast. I left with no decal, but with something better, confirmation. Karen wasn't working alone, and Janine had just flinched. The sky was starting to bruise when I got back home, clouds low, like they were eavesdropping. I dropped my keys on the counter, poured a drink, not out of habit, but because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. You ever have that feeling? When you know something big's coming, but you don't know from which direction, like standing on a frozen lake, listening for cracks. I sat on the porch with my drink and a notepad, writing down every name that crossed my mind, every board member, every neighbor who'd shifted tone since this whole mess began. 3 stood out. Karen, obviously, Janine, and George, the HOA's treasurer. Quiet type, accountant. But I remembered him suddenly from last year's block party, drunk on light beer, bragging about how the right people never pay full price. I had no proof on him, not yet, but I had a feeling. Next morning, I was up before the sun, put on my oldest boots, grabbed the rake, and started clearing my lawn. Not because they told me to, but because it was the one thing I could control. About halfway through, Walter pulled up, didn't even turn off the engine. Get in. Where are we going? To see someone who hates Karen even more than you. I climbed in. 20 minutes later, we parked outside a faded ranch house on the edge of town. A woman answered the door, mid-50s, wiry, sharp eyes. This him? She asked. Walter nodded. This is Deb, used to be on the board. Deb let us in without another word. Inside, she pulled out a shoebox. What is it with old secrets and shoeboxes? Inside, papers, photos, receipts. and one particularly juicy item, a copy of a reimbursement form. Karen had billed the HOA for storm damage repairs to her own private hot tub patio. Deb lit a cigarette and blew smoke toward the ceiling fan. I quit the board after that. No one listened. They were all too scared or too deep in their own crap. I studied the document. The date lined up perfectly with a community vote that had supposedly gone toward emergency sidewalk repairs. I looked at Deb. "Can I borrow this?" She hesitated, then handed it over. "You take her down, you burn it all. Not just her, the whole rot." That hit me. This wasn't just about fees or lawns or fake fines. This was about people who forgot they served a neighborhood, not ruled it. On the way back, Walter said nothing. Just turned the radio low, let the silence stretch. When we pulled up, there was a note pinned to my front door. White paper, red ink. "You're not wanted here." 3 words. That's all it took to chill my blood. I looked around, no one, but I felt them watching. I didn't take the note down. I left it there, like a flag. Inside, I scanned Deb's document and uploaded it to the same burner inbox. Then, I backed it up again, printed 2 copies, one in the freezer, one in the garage wall safe. You can call me paranoid. I call it living with my eyes open. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house felt louder, every gust of wind a whisper. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered, silence. Then a voice, muffled but deliberate. "Stop digging or you'll wish it was just foreclosure." The line went dead. Now, I don't scare easy, but my hand was shaking when I set the phone down. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about HOA corruption. This was organized, systemic. And somewhere in that web, someone had just blinked. By sunrise, I'd made peace with the idea that my life was officially on fire. Funny thing is, there's a clarity that comes with pressure. Like when a pot boils over, you either clean the mess or let the whole kitchen burn. I started with coffee, strong, no sugar. Then I went to work. The first call was to Jack. He picked up on the second ring. "They called you too?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then, "Yeah, they asked about your mental state, if you'd been erratic." I laughed. "And what did you say?" I said, "He's always been a pain in the ass, but no more than usual." I chuckled, but it faded quick. "They're laying groundwork, Jack, trying to paint me unstable, push me out without lifting a finger." He sighed. "You need to be smarter than them now. Not louder, smarter." I hung up and opened my laptop. Started typing out a letter. Not to the HOA, not to Karen, to the other residents. Short, plain English, no drama. "Your HOA funds are being misused. If you want proof, ask to see the reimbursement forms from last year's emergency sidewalk fund." I printed 30 copies, dropped them in mailboxes myself. Hood up, no one saw me. Well, almost no one. As I was sliding one under Clint's door, the porch light snapped on. "Bit early for propaganda, ain't it?" he said, arms crossed. I turned slow. "You enjoy your beer and lawn chair, Clint. Some of us are trying to fix things." He took a step forward. "You think people will believe you over Karen? She gives us barbecue Saturdays and free trash pickups. What you give?" I stared at him a long beat. "Truth." He laughed in my face. But you know what? He didn't tear the paper up, just held it. Back home, I finally did something I'd been avoiding for weeks. I opened the last voicemail my wife ever left me. Just her voice, tired, kind, talking about picking up eggs. And at the end, a joke about HOA drama. "Don't let Karen get to you. She barks, but she's all fluff." God, I missed her. That message grounded me. It reminded me who I was before all this, before the notes, the threats, the fake violations. I closed the app and stood up, looked around the house. My house. This place was mine, not theirs, not some board's. And damn sure not Karen's. Later that day, I spotted Janine outside, watering her flowers like nothing was happening. I walked over, calm. "Afternoon," I said. She tensed. "Afternoon." I held up a manila envelope. "Thought you'd want to see this." She didn't take it. "What is it?" "Proof that Karen's been using HOA money for her own yard work, her own patio, even her damn spa heater." Her hand twitched. She reached out, took the envelope. "I don't want to be involved," she muttered. You already are, I said, turning to leave. You just haven't picked a side yet. That night, someone egged my front door. 2 hits, shells still dripping by the time I opened it. On the stoop, a sticky note. Snitches get stitches. Original. I peeled it off and went inside. Poured myself another drink, and just sat there thinking they were scared. They wouldn't be escalating if they weren't. You ever corner a rat? It bites, but it also shows its face. And I was ready to look it straight in the eye. I didn't sleep that night, just paced the living room, counting the ticks of the wall clock like they were heartbeats. When dawn finally cracked the sky open, I felt hollow, tired in the bones. There's a kind of tired that coffee can't fix. You ever feel that? I stepped outside and hosed off the front door, bits of eggshell stuck like scabs. As the last of the yolk swirled down the steps, I looked up and saw a shadow standing at the edge of my driveway. It was George, the HOA treasurer. Gray windbreakers zipped to the neck, hands in pockets, like he hadn't just shown up uninvited at sunrise. "Got a minute?" he asked. I nodded, cautious. "That depends what you came to say." He walked up slow. "Karen doesn't know I'm here." That got my attention. "I've seen the documents," he said. "The ones Deb gave you. I did the math myself. You're right." I folded my arms. "So why now?" He looked past me, at the house. "Because it's gone too far. The egging, the notes, the threats, that's not what we signed up for." I stared hard. "You mean you signed up to look the other way?" He flinched. I didn't know at first. Then I did, and by then I was in too deep. I let the silence stretch. "You want to make it right?" I asked. He nodded. "Then put it in writing, a statement. Everything you know, dates, numbers, who signed what, and sign your name at the bottom." He went pale. "They'll come after me." "They already did," I said. "Only difference is, now you get to hit back." He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. Just walked back down the drive, head low. That afternoon, a letter showed up in my mailbox. No name, just an envelope thick with printouts. Inside, full financial records from the last 2 years of HOA expenses, anonymous but too clean to be stolen. This came from the inside. I flipped through the pages. Landscaping jobs charged twice. Fence repairs billed but never done. And Karen's name attached to most of them. It was enough to bury her. But I wasn't celebrating. Because at the bottom of the stack was a single sheet of paper, a resignation letter. George's. "I'm sorry I didn't do more," he'd written. "Maybe this helps." That night, I sat on the back porch with Walter. I showed him the papers. He nodded, slow. "You've got them by the throat." But I didn't smile. "They're gonna strike back," I said. Walter exhaled through his nose. "You think this is the final act?" "No, friend. This is just the part where the mask comes off." And boy, was he right. The next morning, I woke up to find the county inspector on my front lawn. Clipboard, camera, measuring tape. He didn't knock, just started walking the perimeter. I stormed outside. "You mind telling me what this is?" He looked up, deadpan. "Complaint about illegal drainage modifications. We're checking slope compliance." "Drainage?" I laughed. It wasn't funny, but it came out anyway. "Karen file that too?" He didn't answer, just kept scribbling. Inside, I called Jack, told him everything. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I did some digging. "You were right. Karen's got a cousin in zoning. That inspector's not random." "Can we prove it?" Jack paused. "No, but we can play dirtier. You ever hear that tone in someone's voice that makes you sit up straighter?" He said, "I want you to find the original landscaping plans for the neighborhood, the ones the HOA submitted to the county, and I want you to compare them to the actual footage of Karen's yard." I blinked. "Why?" "Because if she built her patio over the setback line, we've got leverage, big leverage." That night, I drove out to the records office, snuck in just before closing, told them I needed the file for a property dispute. Played it calm. 15 minutes later, I had a scanned copy in my hand. Karen's lot, original measurements, and clear as day, a note. Setback line, 15 feet from the fence. Her patio, I'd paced it myself years ago. 10 feet, maybe 9.5. She was out of bounds. and I was about to make it public. But here's the thing. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I was building the fuse, and I knew exactly where to light the match. The sun was barely up when I staked the sign in my front yard. Just a cheap sandwich board, white letters on red paint. Community meeting tonight, 6 p.m., front lawn, bring questions. I made sure it faced the street. Let them see it. Let them wonder. By noon, the texts started coming in. Some curious, some hostile. A few anonymous, calling me a traitor, a lunatic, a threat. By 5:30, I'd set up folding chairs, 12 of them. Didn't expect more. But at 6 sharp, I looked out my window and damn near dropped my glass. There were 30, maybe 40 people out there. Lawn chairs, coolers, arms folded, faces tense. Karen showed up last. Floral blouse, sunglasses, clipboard. She stood off to the side, flanked by Janine and 2 other board members, all of them stiff as fence posts. I stepped out with the folder in hand. No microphone, just my voice. You all know me. I've lived here 22 years. My wife planted those rose bushes. I built that shed by hand. I've paid every fee, showed up to every vote, never asked for more than basic decency. Silence. Good, they were listening. But what I've seen lately, what many of you have felt, isn't decency. It's control, fear, retaliation. I held up the folder. These are the records. Every misused dollar, every falsified reimbursement. Every time your dues went to someone's spa heater instead of the broken swings at the park. Gasps, whispers. I looked straight at Karen, and in case anyone doubts it, here's a copy of the original property setback plan. Her patio, built 5 feet inside the restricted zone. She broke the very rules she enforces. Someone shouted from the crowd, "Is that true?" Karen didn't answer. Her lips twitched. Janine looked away. I pressed on. I don't want power. I'm not asking to run things. I just want fairness, transparency, and for this board to answer for what it's done. Another voice. You got proof? I walked forward, dropped a fat envelope on the table I'd set up. It's all here, copies for anyone who wants them. Then from the side, Karen stepped forward. Slow, measured. She took off her sunglasses. This is slander, she said. Personal vendetta. He's manipulating you with half-truths and outdated documents. I smiled, then sue me. The crowd stirred. Someone laughed. Karen froze, just for a beat. Then she turned to Janine. Say something. Janine didn't move. That was the moment. The crack. I turned to the crowd again. I'm calling for a full audit of the homeowner association, an emergency vote of no confidence, right here, right now. Hands went up, slowly at first, then all at once. A tidal wave. Karen backed away, lips tight. But the damage was done. You ever feel a storm break? Not with thunder, but with silence? That's what it was. After the vote, people stayed, asked questions, took copies, some apologized. Clint even came over, didn't say much, just nodded. Didn't think you had it in you. I shrugged. Neither did I. Back inside, I poured a drink, just one. Sat on the porch and watched Karen walk past my house, alone, no clipboard, no entourage. She didn't look up, but I saw her shoulders, and they were finally heavy. Thing is, I wasn't done yet, because what I discovered next, that changed everything. I didn't sleep that night either. Not from fear, those days were over, but from that strange weight that comes after battle, the quiet hum of adrenaline wearing off. You ever sit in a house so quiet you can hear the fridge ticking? Morning came soft, no trucks, no lawnmower drama, no clipboard patrol, just birds and coffee. I sat out front again, no armor this time, just me, a flannel shirt, and a notebook with too many folded pages. Then the knock came. Not the door. Window, side of the house. I stepped around and there he was, Walter, arms crossed, face unreadable. You might want to see this, he said. We walked 2 blocks to his place. Inside, he had his laptop open. Email inbox on the screen. Subject line, confidential, HOA correspondence thread. It had come in overnight. From George. But not to me. To every board member. And someone else. The county commissioner. I read the first line out loud. If I'm going down, I'm not going alone. George had attached everything: emails, spreadsheets, meeting minutes that were never supposed to exist, names, dates, a full map of how Karen siphoned funds, created fake votes, and used fear to keep the board in check. He even included the name of the person in zoning, her cousin, just like Jack said. Walter whistled low. That's a kill shot. I just nodded. She'll be out of the county before sundown. But she wasn't. At noon, she showed up on my porch. Alone again. No clipboard, no sunglasses. Just Karen, smaller than I remembered. She didn't ask to come in, just stood there, arms stiff at her sides. I know what's coming, she said. I waited. Her voice cracked. I never wanted it to go this far. I shook my head. No, you just wanted control. And when you couldn't keep it, you tried to burn down anyone who resisted. She looked away. I'll resign, leave the neighborhood, but I have one request. I raised an eyebrow. Don't go to the media. I stared a long time, let the weight hang there. Then I said, you earned everything that's coming. You're lucky all I wanted was peace. She nodded once, then walked away. That evening, a new notice went out. Karen was gone, Janine too. The board announced an interim leadership vote, transparent process, open nominations. They even asked me to run. I declined. Told them I'd had enough committee chairs for a lifetime. You know what I did instead? I fixed the broken swing set at the park. Just showed up with tools and a drill. Took me 2 hours. By the end, a couple kids were already using it. Later, Clint passed by, tossed me a soda. Guess we needed a reminder who this place belongs to. His eye cracked it open. Yeah, and it ain't the HOA. Final thought, I didn't win because I yelled the loudest. I won because I didn't stop. Because I remembered what this place was before it became a playground for bullies. And because when the time came, I stood up. You ever wonder if one person can really make a difference? I'm here to tell you, you can. You just have to be willing to lose first, and then fight like hell to get it all back. If that hits home, you know what to do.